Can you change your life in 7 days? Or how about in 1 day? Well, there is one person who claims that his life changed in 1 hour with one message. His name is Dr. John Demartini. He was a high school dropout and struggled with learning disabilities. Today, he is considered one of the world's leading authorities on human behavior and personal development. Dr. Demartini travels 360 days a year to countries all over the globe, where he shares his research and findings in all markets and sectors. He is the author of 40 books published in 29 different languages. He has produced over 60 CDs and DVDs covering subjects such as development in relationships, wealth, education, and business. Well, on tour in South Africa, I caught up with him again at one of his discussions in Johannesburg, titled The 5 Actions That Will Change Your Life Forever. He's now with me in studio. Welcome. Always wonderful to have you with us.
Thank you again.
In our beautiful city of Johannesburg.
Yes, it's a beautiful day.
I enjoyed your evening's discussion as always.
Thank you for attending again.
Tell us your story, John. Share with us that defining moment where one man with one message changed your life in 1 hour. I've heard it before, but I always love hearing it.
Well, I was 17. It's a week before my 18th birthday, November 18th, so you don't forget that day. And I was sitting in a little recreation hall on the north shore of Oahu, Hawaii, with about 35 other young people. And an elderly gentleman was introduced by a woman to speak. I had really no real idea what he was about to say when I went there, but I was led there intuitively because I saw a little flyer at a health food store that was intriguing looking, and I thought, I ought to go to that. And without a doubt, that one night, his one message spoke to me. I felt like I was who he's talking to. I think everybody in that room did, but I knew for me it was true to me. And he said that we have a body, we have a mind, and we have a soul. And it was a philosophical, theological message, ultimately. And he said the body must be directed by the mind must be guided by the soul in order to maximize who you are on the planet. And that you have the capacity to do something extraordinary with your life, and you want to give yourself permission to set goals for yourself, your family, your community, your city, your state, your nation, your world, and beyond for 100 to 120 years. Well, nobody ever talked to me like that. Nobody ever encouraged me to go and do something extraordinary with my life. And that was the first night that I actually thought that maybe I could overcome my learning problems and eventually learn how to speak properly and read properly and become intelligent. I never believed I was going to ever be intelligent in my life. I thought I was going to be a sports person. Not that sports people aren't intelligent, but I had sports smarts, but not academic smarts. And that night I actually saw the possibility that I could overcome my learning problems, and I had a dream to do that and learn to teach and to travel the world and to do what he had done for me with as many people as I could around the world, and to stand on his shoulders and go farther. And his daughter, who's still alive today, who's in her 80s, late 80s, is a close friend. And she was attending a talk that I did later, just about 7 or 8 years ago in Hawaii, maybe 8 years ago. And she was in the back of the room, and she, at my break, came up to me and grabbed my hands. And she says, that was very, very inspiring and touching. I felt like I was in the presence of my father. And that was very special to me, because this guy changed my life, and here his daughter was thinking I was like him. And that was very meaningful because he touched a lot of people's lives. Steve Jobs was affected by his life. Donald Trump was affected by his life. Yeah. Luther Burbank, Henry Kellogg, William Kellogg. I mean, the list, Jack LaLanne. There's 139 celebrity individuals that were all impacted by that one man. And I was one of them. So yeah, my life changed that night, very big time.
Now I know why I like listening to that story over and over again, because it always brings tears to your eyes, and yeah, it's inspiring and it's touching as well. You know. Well, if I look at your life and see where you are today.
That was the night that I saw a vision of what I wanted to do. I went through life after that assuming other people lived that way too. I later discovered that not everybody had that experience. I know everybody in that room that night did, because I saw people literally in tears that night. The whole room was. But I know that not everybody has that experience, and I've been inspired to do what I can to help people get that experience. Because when you access what's really, really, really important to you in life, what's really meaningful to you, you don't need outside motivation again. You're intrinsically called and driven, you're inspired to do something in your life.
Sure.
And to me, there's a gift when you have that. That gives you a drive and opportunities that not everybody gets to experience, because majority of people are comparing themselves to others, minimizing themselves to those that they admire, shrouding and clouding the clarity of what's meaningful to them, and putting other people on a pedestal, and then thinking there's something wrong with them because now they're a fish comparing themselves to a cat who can climb a tree and they can't. Or they're a cat comparing themselves to a fish that can swim and thinking they can't, and what's wrong with me? Instead of just honoring who they are. And I think that night I got to be who I was and be appreciated and loved for that. And I think everybody wants to be loved and appreciated for who they are.
Absolutely.
That was a very powerful moment in my life, a turning point.
Do you think it was in the message, or it was because of who he was and what he projected as a teacher and as a leader?
Both. I think he was a very present, very focused, very dedicated man. And I think that in itself was his teachings. But his message was something that I had never heard.
Sure.
I was told I would never read or write or communicate, never mount a thing, never go very far in life as a child. And so I just assumed that was true. I just assumed that was, I had difficulty reading, I couldn't read. I went to a speech pathologist when I was 2 years old. And I had to do all these exercises to try to learn how to speak properly. And no matter what I did, it wasn't working. And I wrote backwards like this. And I couldn't write, and I couldn't get meaning out of things, and I couldn't read, and it was just challenging.
Sure.
And so I just assumed the evidence is there, what they're saying seems to be true. I bought into that and believed other people's opinions of me, even though inside I had a dream to make a difference and want to do something. And he opened up a doorway that I had closed, I think when I was 7, and here I am now 10 years later. And he opened up a doorway to go, well, just because that's what the world believes doesn't mean that has to be. In the movie The Secret, I made a statement that was probably as much for me as anybody else. I said, when the voice and the vision on the inside is louder and more profound than all opinions on the outside, you begin to master your life. Because that was really what happened. At that moment, I let the voice and the vision of what I really wanted to do come to the surface again. Now, I was surfing at the time, and I was going to probably make surfboards for surfers. And I was relatively good. I got in a very relatively high echelon in the surfing industry. And but deep inside, I used to have to ask the surfers to read for me. So if I saw a magazine or something, and I'd say, well, tell me what it says. And I didn't like that, but I didn't see much of an alternative because I was limited in my vocabulary and my speaking ability. And I still have friends that are still alive today that remember that. And so when he said what he said, I actually got a dream and a vision that I could break through that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's really awesome to look back at that one defining moment that you are privileged to have. A lot of people, though, today struggle to get to that defining moment. And being a great teacher that you are, you have developed certain methodologies to assist them. Tell us about these 5 action steps, John.
Well, along the journey over the last 45 years, I found that people would very commonly bang their head against the wall pursuing things that they thought were important to them, but really, really wasn't. And like if I ask an audience, how many of you would like to be financially independent? Everybody puts their hand up. Literally 100% of the room put their hands up. And I ask, how many of you are? All the hands go down, most of them. Maybe 7 out of 1,000 people will have their hands up. So they actually believe they want to be financially independent, but what their actions demonstrate is that I want to spend my money not on things that appreciate value, which are investments and assets, but I want to buy things that are consumables that depreciate the moment you buy them. And I want immediate gratification. And so their life demonstrates one thing, even though they say they want another thing. And there's a conflict there. And I watched that, not just in finance, but in business. I watched that. I watched many times women would come to me and say, I want to find my mate. And I would watch their actions, and they would make sure they were protecting themselves from wounds of the past to make sure they didn't get in a relationship.
Yeah.
And what they said they wanted wasn't matching their actions.
Yep.
And I watched this spiritually. I watched this intellectually. I want to know this, and then they don't show any evidence to really study and learn it. I watched it in all areas, and I thought, what's leading to this? And I realized that what people think is important to them and what their life demonstrates are not congruent often. And so I had to find a way of objectivizing what exactly are the values that people live by. So I put together a value determination process to help me help others get clear about what they really wanted, what their life was demonstrating, not what they're fantasizing.
So if you get rid of all the chaos and
And
inside
the
minds.
moment they really get clear on that, and they kind of have this gamma burst in the brain, it's like, aha, and they go, God, no wonder my life's doing this. Then I give them this option that if you set a goal that's not congruent with your values, you won't have fulfillment. You'll beat yourself up because you'll be expecting to do something that's not so, and you'll just keep depreciating yourself and then comparing yourself to even more to other people, which is a vicious cycle. Or you can change your values to match the goals you set. Because there's some people that say, I want to be financially independent. And I said, well, your values aren't going to lead you there. So you have two choices. Either stop the fantasy, you're going to be financially independent, and go after what's really important, or let's shift the values so you can achieve it. But you have to have a congruency between your intentions and your values. So I developed systems for both of those to help people do that, because the second they get those congruent, they take off, and the natural born inspiration and calling and leadership roles that they want and the desire to make a difference occur there. Each individual has a unique set of values, and when they live congruently, they are unique. And people want to make a difference, and the greatest way to make a difference is not trying to be somebody you're not, but being you.
Yeah.
I tell people the magnificence of who they are, as they are, is far greater than any fantasies they keep injecting and creating for their life. And so one is identifying what they really, really have as their values and their top value. That's the first thing that makes a difference the rest of your life.
So clarity is very important.
Clarity of that, because that highest value is really your identity, and that revolves around it, your purpose that you feel that you have meaning for, the thing that most inspiring to you, where you'll excel. The second thing that I tell people to get clear about is, what is that service? Because whatever that is, I've found that there's, in every case, ability to translate that into a service for people, where you can actually contribute to other people's lives, being yourself, in a way that gets you paid to do what you love, so your vocation becomes your vacation. And so many people don't, they're going to a job that they're not inspired by, and they want to escape it with vacations, they want to escape it with breaks, they want to escape it with retirement, instead of finding something they love to do. Someone like Warren Buffett, he's in his 80s, late 80s. He loves tap dancing to work. The people I know that have actually accessed this really highest value thing, and they go after it, they love their job. They love their life. They're inspired by what they do. I found mine. Not everybody finds theirs, so I love in the breakthrough experience to help people catalyze that, because if they do, they don't need motivation in their life. They're inspired. And so identifying that. Third is to actually disciplining them to prioritize their daily actions, prioritize their perceptions, prioritize their talk, prioritize who they hang out with, prioritize what they read, prioritize their priorities in daily actions in business and their home. Anytime they're doing a highest priority as the ABCs, they grow in self-worth. And anytime they go down into lower XYZs, they lower their self-worth. And then to metric it, to measure it, so they really get authentically, objectively looking to see if they're congruent, to make sure that they're really doing what they're saying. Because if they're able to walk their talk, their confidence in themselves goes up. And the fifth one would be to be grateful for whatever happens along the way, because whatever that is along the way, it's doing nothing but feedback to guide you to be that authentic person. And the person who can see things from that perspective and be grateful for what happens and see that it's guiding them back to being authentic, they see life on the way, not in the way, and they become masters of destiny, not victims of history. And that changes your direction. It changes your trajectory of life. And I don't think there's any limit on our capacity to do that. I don't know of anybody, no matter what their background or experience, that can't turn that around and do something amazing with their life with those experiences.
It was so awesome to have you with us. Thank you so much for your time today.
No, thank you.